Hello everyone, it's me, Clayton. I just got back from watching Escape Room. Happy 2019. And this movie was directed by Adam Robidoux, who you might recognize from directing the fourth Insidious movie, Insidious: The Last Key. Now, when it comes to the January season of cinematic releases, most studios tend to put their worst films, or generally films that they don't think will perform well, into January, simply because it's the season after the awards season where a lot of people would be burnt out on films that would generally be reserved for the Oscars. However, with Escape Room, while it certainly isn't perfect, it's definitely better than most January horror films that we usually see. So the story is about six different people who all end up in an escape room, who each of them has their own tragic backstory, and all of them have to escape these state-of-the-art rooms to find out more about themselves, to overcome their past traumas, and to find out who's responsible for bringing all these people here for a specific purpose. That's all I'll say about the story without spoiling anything. But one thing that I will say is that when you look at the cast of characters in the film, such as the businessman Jason, the shy college girl Zoe, or the stoner Ben, you might think that a lot of the characters are basically one-dimensional archetypes because, well, at the surface they kind of are. They seem very one-note, but it actually does work here because it allows us to establish our main characters very, very early on. In fact, only 3 of the main characters actually get vignettes for us to understand who they are before the game even begins. So it's fairly easy to tell who's going to make it far into the game and who's going to die early. It is pretty predictable that way. Not to mention the script, while it can be funny sometimes, is a little bit clumsy, where there are bits of humor that work, bits that just die, bits of foreshadowing that are extremely obvious, and some lines that are just poorly written and don't make sense anyways. That's especially the case for the ending of the film. I won't spoil it, but let's just say it's a sequel bait ending that also leaps in logic in ways the rest of the film didn't. But at the same time, the film does have a lot of great stuff too. Zoe is actually a great main character, and her savviness with puzzles actually makes for some of the more entertaining parts of the film. Danny, a video game geek, is part of the cast, and he's way underutilized. I think his parts of the film were generally pretty entertaining. And some of the other characters, like Amanda and Mike, add some levity as well as some good character beats in their own right. Basically, the cast makes these characters their own, despite the fact that they are fairly one-dimensional archetypes. Not to mention, the escape rooms that our characters find themselves in are pretty creative. Some of them have puzzles that rely on references, some have puzzles that make a good use of the film's tension and soundtrack, and other puzzles are ones that are so out there that you probably couldn't solve them before the characters could. Some are extremely obvious, some aren't, and the rooms are kind of a hit and miss, but when the rooms are interesting and when they do have puzzles that are well fleshed out, it definitely feels like the filmmakers are doing something right. Not only that, but the direction of the film is pretty solid too. There's plenty of scenes where the camera happens to give us enough information to tell what's going on. There aren't a lot of shaky cam bits. The visuals for the rooms themselves are generally pleasing to the eye, as well as varied enough to the point where the film is never boring. And learning more about the inner workings of the game at hand is really interesting. But like I said, the clumsy script, the terrible ending, and a few other nitpicks do keep the film from being generally good throughout. But if this film is going for a sequel, I think if it could iron out a few of these issues, it could definitely be a classic. As it is, it's a generally entertaining but heavily flawed film. it's simply an okay film in its own right that you could watch if you want to, but if you don't want to, you won't miss a whole lot. I give The Escape Room a 6.5 out of 10. See you next time.